What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to talk all about how to build wealth as a therapist. Now, I know this channel is not necessarily focused on figuring out how to build wealth, but I will say I feel really passionate about making sure everyone, regardless of profession, has access to the tools they need in order to feel empowered to build wealth. According to Ziprecruiter, the average therapist salary in the United States is $77,000 a year. And actually, if we look a little bit more closely at that data, it looks like that number is getting skewed quite a bit by just a few folks who are earning closer to $150,000 a year. And realistically, most therapists are earning something closer to like $55,000 a year. And the average salary in the United States, regardless of profession, according to the US Census, is $70,000 a year. So it's fairly comparable to the average therapist salary. And so when I hear data saying that the average American has only $4,500 in their savings account, I can't help but assume that that average likely looks somewhat similar for therapists. And I know there are folks watching who have $0 to your name, and you would just love to have $4,500 in your savings account. I see you, I hear you. And if we're thinking that across the board, folks who've been working for decades or working hard at their jobs for a long time, they may still only have $4,500 in their name, well, that's awfully difficult to try building wealth from that point of view. One way or the other, I imagine that the average person could benefit from some tips, some tools to help them build their wealth so that, you have that rainy day fund, so that you feel like you can have a comfortable retirement, or so that you feel like you can give back and make your services more accessible for folks without feeling like you're really noticing it in your bank account. So with that said, let me give a little bit of a disclaimer and say that anything I share here does not constitute professional financial advice. If you're needing the help of a professional, please hire one. Just know that I'm sharing these things out of my own, reflections, opinions, etc. Okay, so let's dive into those tips to build wealth as a therapist, starting with things you can do right now and then building up to the things that you can start to do over time. The first tip is to start building your wealth right away, like today, with whatever your income looks like right now. So in other words, don't wait until your salary is higher someday, you're working to build up to that income and then you'll start saving and building your wealth. Today is the day to start. There are many reasons why I think it's a good idea to start today, but the biggest one of all is that the more you can put away today, the more you'll have later. Putting away a little bit today may amount to more in the long run than putting a lot away later on. We're going to touch on this more later, but basically suffice it to say, a little bit of money now is worth a lot more money later, so you're going to have to work harder later to build that same amount of wealth. Okay, now if you're in graduate school and you have zero income to speak of, different story. But if you have any amount of income, however small, even if you're earning minimum wage, and you had the mentality that someday when your income is higher, then you'll start saving, this message is for you. I really encourage you to shift your mentality and think about how you can save right now. Tip number 2 is to empower yourself with numbers. Do some real math to calculate when you subtract taxes from your salary and benefits and all those things, how much is left. Because, if you're making a gross salary of $60,000 a year, yeah, of course you have some sense that some of that money is going towards taxes, benefits, other things. But if you don't have an actual number in mind of how much you're left with after all of those things are spoken for, then it's really easy to end up in a situation where you wind up overspending. So if you have a gross salary of $60,000 a year, you think you have $5,000 available at your disposal every single month, spend $4,000 on your expenses and $1,000 tucked away in savings, investments in some form, call it good, then when you get to tax season, you're going to be slapped with a, say, $13,000 bill or more, and you don't even have that money left in your account, even though you were saving $1,000 a month. So instead of waiting for that moment to happen, do a bit of math up front. Yes, it's absolutely painful to subtract your taxes from your gross income, and in this hypothetical scenario, if now you have $47,000 at your discretion instead of $60,000, that's painful, and yet you can be empowered to realize that actually you have less than $4,000 a month to work with, both for your expenses and your savings and investments. So see if there are ways to live within those means and still have money left over to invest. I know in many ways that step is really stating the obvious. You should know how much money you have before you start, divvying it up in different places, but I think so many people skip it, and it's probably because we're really scared to know how much money is actually in our accounts at the end of the day. So find a way to muster up the courage to face those fears, face those numbers so that you can do something about it. And that leads to our next tip, which is to live well below your means. Like as low below your means as you can, while still maintaining a sense of joy and feeling like you're leaning into your values, having access to a reasonable amount of comforts. But live well below your means. A mentality that I see a lot of folks have, as I mentioned, is that, someday I'm going to earn more income and then I will save that income. And though this might sound well and good that if you just, hustle later on once your income is higher to save a bunch of money and then you'll just catch up, I have a hard truth to deliver to you. The reality is, once our income goes up, for most people, we don't wind up saving any more money than we were before, unless we were already saving money and then it becomes much more accessible to continue living by that standard, that habit that we've already built into our financial practices. Now, I want to be clear that I don't want you to feel like you have to sort of starve yourself from spending, cut every single corner, cut literal coupons every single day, and feel like you can't live your life because you can't spend any money. Rather, I encourage you to take a look at your monthly expenses. Yes, actually look at like a line-by-line breakdown of every place you spend money on each month and see if there's anything that you're spending money on that isn't really bringing you joy, isn't really adding value to your life. So if you can find those and reduce those expenses and then find a way to invest that money, save that money instead, it will pay off. And the next tip is to invest right away in something. And if you have absolutely no idea what it looks like to invest in something and you don't yet have a retirement fund going, that's a great place to start. I have a whole video all about retirement funds, so I won't get into it here. I'll just link to that video below. But the reason why it's so important to invest right away, regardless of how much money or how little money it is because that money will grow over time in a significant way. So let's say you're 25 years old, you don't have that much of an income coming in, but you're able to scrape together $100 a month and you decide to invest it in a Roth IRA account. And let's say you keep plugging away at it and you keep investing $100 a month every month for 10 years. Then if we fast forward to when you're 35 years old, that $100 a month that you invested will now be worth $17,000. And just to make a point, if you do nothing else other than start investing $100 a month when you're 25 years old and you continue investing that same amount until you're 65, then by the time you're 65, that will have grown into $250,000. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of money for just $100 a month. But let's say instead you decided to wait until you're 35 to start investing money at all, then you would have to start paying in over $200 a month just to get to that same number at age 65. So the change in amount is exponential over time and well worth it. Most folks want to have over $250,000 by the time they're 65, but I'm just giving you an example. I share this whole story to illustrate that even if you can only invest the tiniest little bit of money every single month right now, it's going to snowball over time and future you will thank you so much for it as you do it. And if you've already been investing $100 a month and your income starts scaling up and up and up a little bit, that 100 can grow to 150 and 200. And there might be a time in the future where you can invest a lot more than $100 a month and build towards a much higher retirement level of income when you're ready to retire. Now, I think for the average person watching, if all you do is make the changes I've suggested so far, if you haven't been doing these things already, it will radically change the trajectory of your financial future. And this could be enough to just stop here. If you find it overwhelming to add too many more things, start here and you could circle back to these things later, but these are already pretty radical shifts for most people. With that said, I'm gonna add some more tips because you can still continue building your wealth beyond what I've shared so far. The next tip is to change jobs, or if you're in private practice, raise your rate. Now, the reason why I suggest this is because it's just based on data that we have available that when people change jobs, their income goes up way more than it would if they didn't change jobs. So here's a direct quote from Forbes about this. Quote, according to a new Pew Research Center analysis, half of workers who changed jobs saw their pay increase nearly 10%. The median worker who stayed put saw an inflation-adjusted loss of almost 2%. Whew. That's a huge difference. If you change jobs, your income can jump 10% on average. If you stay at your job, when you adjust for inflation, you basically end up getting a pay cut because most jobs aren't giving you raises at a rate adequate enough to even keep up with inflation. Changing jobs also has an exponential impact because every time you change jobs, you end up learning a new angle, new skills. Even if you're kind of going from the same role in one job just to a different employer doing the same role again, you're going to learn something new in that new context. And every time you learn something new, it builds your resume. And then next time you change jobs, you can leverage those learnings to then, of course, have a higher income as well. And for folks in private practice, put simply, don't forget to raise your rate. I have a whole video going over how to raise your rate and why it's important to do so. So I'll link to that below. But if you take away nothing else, if you leave your rate the same, you're giving yourself a pay cut because you have to at least account for inflation as well as increased expenses over time. As valuable as those first tips were in this video, if there is any way you can go about raising your income, that is the easiest way to build wealth, assuming you don't go and spend all that money as soon as you make more income. And all of that leads us to our next tip, which is to keep lifestyle inflation in check. I've also heard this referred to as lifestyle creep. So lifestyle inflation is the concept that happens for so many folks when our income goes up, our mind goes, cool, I finally can afford that car. I've been needing a new car for a while. I can finally go travel to those places I've been meaning to go to. And yes, though our income goes up and so therefore we can now afford more things that are important to us, what happens for a lot of folks is they inflate their lifestyle so much that they don't end up saving any money even though their income has gone up. Now again, this isn't to say that when your income goes up, you cannot spend any more money or you can't enjoy nice things. Not at all. It's just a reminder to come back again to that tip from before, to do the math and be empowered to make sure you're saving enough money. A good rule of thumb is to make sure you're saving at least the same percentage of your income that you were saving before. So if you were, investing 20% of your income before and now your income has gone up, then make sure you're still investing 20% of your new income and you'll still have more income left over to spend on the different things that are important to you. The next tip is to diversify your investments and your income. Now, by diversify, I just mean that for your income, you have income streams coming in from more than one source, and for your investments, you have your money invested in different places. The advantage for this is both for the present and for the future that you have more stability across your finances as a whole. Now, I'll say if somebody had given me this tip when I was 25 years old, I would have rolled my eyes at them and walked away because I was earning like $15 an hour and I was proud of myself for even being able to put away like $100 a month if I was able to. So this tip is for those of you who've maybe already been applying the prior tips thus far, and now let's say it is 10 years later and you have been investing those bits of money over time. It's starting to accrue interest. Maybe your income has also gone up over time as well. And so now you have a little bit of a portfolio going on of things you've invested in. Now, since this video is geared for beginners who maybe haven't even started on their wealth building journey, I'm not going to get into all the details of all the different places you can invest your money and what that looks like and what percent to put here and what percent to put there. I'm hoping to set up folks who have maybe minimal or no wealth built up at all for success by helping you find a path that can help you build towards something that, yes, takes time usually, but that as time passes, you will start to get to experience that positive snowballing effect of your wealth building up, and then you can do cool stuff, whatever it is that you want to do once you've built up wealth, whether it's retire early, give your time away in some form, or, have access to things that make for a more comfortable lifestyle if that's what you wish to do. And I can't make this video without thanking my husband because, full disclosure, in our household, he is the one who knows about finances. And I mean knows about finances. And so it's because of him sharing information with me and teaching me what he knows, or probably a fraction of what he knows, that I'm able to then share this information with you. Because I imagine most people on average are like me, where you just get totally overwhelmed by financial information and feel like you're drowning. So thanks to him for being able to take a whole bunch of information and putting it into a digestible amount for me to understand and then hopefully share with you so that it can help you as well. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes helps with scheduling, notes, and billing, and they have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform where you can meet with your clients and so many other features. If you'd like to check out TherapyNotes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, I hope you found this video helpful wherever you're at in your therapist career, and if nothing else, I hope I made it just a little bit less taboo for therapists to talk about building wealth, because building wealth and being greedy are not the same thing. I'm not even going to get into that in this video. Let me know in the comments below if there are any tips you would add to help people know how to build their wealth. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well.